Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors, find out what got them to where they are now, get insight into their daily habits, and take these insights to inspire your own growth? Each week, Jonathan Green shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a lifelong real estate investor, advisor, and coach, as well as the founder and team leader of Streamlined Properties. Whether you're looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just for a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, Jonathan seeks to provide a free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Thanks for showing up for another episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. I really appreciate you always listening to these episodes on Monday and Thursday morning or during the week, whenever you get to them. Got a great show for you this week, and it's one that is a novel idea. Now, we've talked a lot in other episodes about wholesaling and other modified off-market acquisition strategies, but today we're doing a deep dive on Novation. It falls somewhere between wholesale and wholetail, gives a little bit of ownership rights because of the Novation agreement, and you're going to find out how to be a buyer beater, because Buyer Beater University is Trever Ahing's company. We're going to talk all about it and get the deep dive on Novation. Let's go. This is episode 186 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Trever Ahing. Trever is the founder of Buyer Beater University, which specializes in novations, which we're going to do a deep dive into, but he is a creative finance specialist specifically as it comes to novation. Trever, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you and glad to go back on your background and figure out when you found out about real estate. Was it while you were in the military or before the military when you were really young that you first had an inkling for real estate?
Oh, brother. Single mom, huge mama's boy. I thought buying a house was a scam. Whole family did. So coming into that, I'm like, I ended up joining the service and basically found out about 5 years in the military.
Yeah, it's common, though, and I found with all of my guests who have been in some form of the military that it's becoming more and more common now because you do go from serious time to a lot of downtime sometimes, depending on where you are. So what was the first thing that precipitated you thinking real estate while you were in service?
Well, dude, honestly, yeah, big thing on that side, right? Especially in the Marine Corps bleeding over. I started speaking at, bases and installations. Financial literacy, man, it's just not taught amongst service members. Like you said, we're busy as hell. We're doing a bunch of deployments. We're in the field all the time. So we can't even think about what, next month is even going to hold, let alone what you want to do in 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, it's funny. My wife always says that her her failure led to my biggest success. Because I was going to do 30 years in the Marine Corps, brother. I was going to do it. I loved it. I loved every second of it.
Yeah.
I came home one time and my wife showed me a thing that she found on Bigger Pockets, right? It was a local meetup in San Diego. And she goes, I'm going to go here. I'm going to meet people because I'm going to get my real estate license. And I'm like, honey, you're a beautiful little Filipino woman. Go crush it. Go sell all the houses to all my friends. It's going to be awesome. Well, it was a seminar that she ended up meeting through people. It was going to be like $60. Yeah. And I paid for it. Long story short, fast forward to that day, she chickened out. She didn't want to go. She's an introverted extrovert. And I go, I'm not wasting $60 damn. So I went to the event. And the cool thing about the event, man, I thought real estate was a super suit and tie, you always see it. And it wasn't. I started meeting people that, own, multiple properties, guzzling beer and board
and
shorts.
Flip-flops.
Flip-flops, dude. Yeah. Super Brandon Turner style. And I'm like, what? And I talked to somebody there and he asked me what I do. I said I was in the service and he goes, oh, you use your VA loan? And I go, no, man. He goes, you're an idiot, brother. He goes, buy a house, put all your boys in there, rent out by the room and house hack. And that's the first light bulb I had, Jonathan. And then I said, it can't be that easy. Long story short, man, it can be that easy, And so I told my wife that. We got a home. We rented out all of the rooms to my buddies in the service, made about $1,200 each room. And I was like, I got bit by the bug. And I just slowly but surely started being able to build up a foundation through those means.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to one thing and then get to how you got to this, but it is crazy about financial literacy just in schools is like absent. But even as you go through businesses or, of course, the military, like you were saying, you got to figure out now what you're going to do when you get out. Even if you're planning on a 30-year, you could always get injured. Something could happen, but it's really hard to figure out. And it's interesting that you found something that your wife thought was going to be something else. And then like, oh, it just turned into it. But what was it about real estate? Did you really get the bug once you saw like, oh, this kind of room hacking thing works? Look at all this money that's coming in and my friends are happy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, we'll take a more of emotional dive into it. The way I really got the bug was I was on the house. I took it to an extreme though. Like I started seeing, wow, I could rent out these rooms and make this. I had little labels on the fridge. Told the wife, I said, hey, we could probably put a bed in the living room. We could probably put bunk beds in here, I bent it, man. So we're in this house. It looked like a freaking, it looked like a hostel in itself, and I was proud of it until my father-in-law came, and he always, he always loved, the grind and the hustle, but he did pull me aside, after about a year, and he was like, hey, I dig this. He was like, but my daughter deserves so much more, right?
Oh,
She's
fair. Yeah.
Extremely fair, right? And so I said, okay, but look at all this. He's like, yeah, but look at what she's cleaning up. Like, look at all. I mean, this is definitely, this is a temporary means to an end. I love what we got, but let's change it up. And so I sat down with my wife and I said, let me look into more vehicles through real estate. Let's see what we can do. And right before my last deployment to the Middle East, about 10 days before my father-in-law passed of an aneurysm, so suddenly died. Yeah. I know, extremely unfortunate. And my wife was in shambles, and I told my command, I had a very illustrious career, multiple meritorious promotions, and I just felt like I was that Marine to where if I had to stay back, I could. Marine Corps, I'll never say anything bad about it, but it is a revolving door, so they told me I couldn't stay back, and I just felt like, man, I need something that I can reclaim my time, right? I'm in the service to be able to provide for my family, and the one time I need to, I couldn't. And I just said, what wouldn't stop me is if I was able to, be my own boss and tell myself that I can do this. And so I told my woman, I said, hey, when I get back, I'm going to find out what can work full time. And that's what I did. I started diving into it, got into assignment real estate at a great time in 2020, and then, wholesale, and then bled and got my license. And then that's kind of where the path started.
Yeah, that's a very common thread, though, what you said from all the veteran guests. No one has anything bad to say about the military. They learn so much, and we'll get into systemization and hierarchy and how that helps you as a real estate investor. But a lot of people find at some point there just comes a point where you're like, wait, I need to take control. Like I want to be with my family more. And I've done my time. I've done a lot of time. I've served my country, and now it's time. And one thing I think people forget, which I've talked about on a few shows, is that your VA loan, you can get more than one property with it. It really depends where you're buying, how much allotment you have. And that's where you can really go out, get an investment and get a house for yourself, because the VA doesn't work, like FHA as other people think.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I was in San Diego, so I started looking around, and I'll tell you what, I could barely even afford a freaking porta potty.
Yeah, my sister lives in Carlsbad, and I've owned properties there. I'm familiar.
Yeah. I'm over in Temecula now, and I love this area. But yeah, I mean, and when you can end up creating creative measures like house hacking, it's a phenomenal way to do it. You don't need all the lights to turn green for you to be able to break even or cash flow. And kind of going into that mold, you're completely correct. You know what I mean? Utilize that, get a 4-door, get a duplex, see where your eligibility is, look at bonus eligibility, refinance conventional, take it wherever you go. Things like that. I mean, small steps that you can end up taking to attain crazy net worth just by being passive while you're doing your active duty service, and I never just thought about it like that.
Yeah, you made some really important points there, because what I think people do is they just go to any lender, and that's not going to help you. You need someone who specializes in VA or knows VA so they can calculate your allotment, how much you have, and understand it fully. Because if you don't, you may just think, hey, I got my property, like I'm good. Until I turn this over, I can't do anything. But there's a lot more available out there. That obviously now licensed as well. But for buyers, it's like it can be such a windfall. And I've always found that the presentation of the VA loan is very important on the agent's part on your behalf when you're a buyer, when the veteran buyer, because you have to explain the VA loan to a lot of agents who think like, oh, no money down, they must be poor. It's like, no, I served my country. This is what I'm being rewarded with. And, I don't need to put money down. You still can put money down or put money in escrow and then take it back, which is also a great move. But yeah, I think that's important to note, because obviously you were learning as you go, but then the light bulb must have went off and you're like, okay, I can use this. And now I can figure out all these other things.
Oh, yeah, man. Honestly, the VA loan is so competitive. And the thing that I tend to find, and I would love to get to this later after we kind of bridge the gap with the renovation piece. But I created something called the Veteran Home Advantage I want to go into just because, like you stated, I mean, identifying, the right buyer's agents, the right listing agents, and getting in front of it. I also see a lot of service members have to apply for 6, 7 houses, because, until they find one that they truly want to, move into. And I was able to kind of bridge the gap between that. But I see it all the time. Well, my agent, well, you're using your, no offense, but everybody and their mom has a license now. You know what I mean?
I always say, I've been licensed for 10 years. Most agents suck. And for investors, only 1% even have a clue, if even that's close. So that's why it is really important with VA or with investing, just to figure out, like, do I really have a partner in this relationship? Someone's going to help me, or is it just someone with commission breath trying to get a check? Because that's just going to get you a bad investment, or you're not going to learn anything along the way.
Oh, not at all. You're dealing with these new agents. It's their first transaction because it's their sister's mom's husband's brother's niece, and it's like, what have you done before? And you're like, well, actually, I'm a full-time, this, but I do this on Thursdays.
Right, exactly. That's funny, though. And then I'll get off the agent bandwagon. But it's always funny to me because people are like, I just tell them, like, these are generally, most investments or house buys are going to be the biggest investments you've ever made. I mean, without even a question. So do you really want to do that with someone who has a better, like a more important job? And this is just like when they can fit in. Not that part-time agents can't do okay, but you still have to be full-time in the part-time. And you need a partner, right? I mean, that's what you really want, especially when you're coming back from either being deployed or from working in the service. And, you want to see your family. So you need someone to help you. You can't do all the things. Your wife had her license, so that probably helped, but she had to learn along the way as well.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Absolutely. And by the way, she never got it. She never went and did it. I fully sent it. I came back home and I said, honey, we're going to become millionaires. And she was like, okay, and it is funny how we're able to transition, and she is nothing but supportive. I credit everything to my woman, but it is funny. That's where she was like, wow, can you imagine if I win? I probably wouldn't have stuck with it, and I'm like, that is crazy to think.
That's why it aligned that way, though. But she had the impetus to go set it up, and then it was just, hey, let me pass it over. And that's worked out well. Before we get to what your first investment is, let's just pivot quickly to Novation, because people know wholesaling. Less people know wholetailing, but Novation is somewhere in the middle. Can you explain just what Novation is and what you do and why it's different? It just has a little twist on both of those.
Absolutely. So, there's the nerdy way to describe it and the non-nerdy, right? Obviously, it's going to be a replacement of one's position, right? We're going to be assigning usually to a third-party conventional end purchaser, where we're really just testing the optimism of the market, right? We're able to arbitrage our profit, lock the seller into a price that they want, take over what we call the 3 M's, the marketing, maintenance, and management. And it's kind of just like an on-market wholesale, right? It very much so is. And then you can go, there's a lot more layers to it when it comes down to if you want to renovate the home on behalf of them to appreciate it, or if you just want to be able to assign it. I mean, things like that. So we dive into a Novation as more of an umbrella term. And then I do end up having 2 packages I help our homeowners with, which is the equity protection program and then our equity split, where we renovate the homes for them. But really, a lot of our deals, just about 99% of them, are dead wholesale deals, or dead listings that have been sitting for 90 to 120 days, where the agent probably overpromised and maybe underdelivered, and we just call the agent and we say, hey, what are you doing? I got some funding ready to go. This thing's dated. Let me just come in there, pull this thing off market real quick, just put it on hold. I'll renovate the home. Any appreciation I create through the renovation, when you relist it, your commission's going to go up. I can work the seller.
You just said the most important part, and that's why off-market specialists know this. You go to the on-market and you explain to them, hey, I have a deal for your client, and P.S., it's going to help you too, because I'm going to fix it up, and then you can just relist it. One of my friends in San Diego, I don't know if you know him, Mark Pattison.
Okay. Yeah.
They bought Gigi Homes or something. He runs something else, home buyers, but that's the strategy a lot. He's licensed. He has a huge team, and they go to a lot of agents and say, hey, bring us a deal. We'll give you back the listing. It's no big deal.
Yeah, it's usually, I'd say right now, we're doing between 3 to 5 a month, and two to 3 of them are their agents calling us now, right? I mean, the cool thing about it is I always say agents have fiduciary to their seller, but they also have fiduciary to their pocket. You know what I mean? So this thing's been sitting. It's a thorn in your side.
It's a win-win. You're going to come in, knock out a renovation. Seller's going to get an increased profit. It's going to sell quicker instead of just sitting there with an ugly kitchen and like brown carpet, which does still exist even in San Diego where things are pretty.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you're
I
not.
the way that I always thought of Novation was that when you get into a wholesale and you lock something up and you're under contract, you can't list it on the MLS because you don't have ownership rights. The
Yep.
Novation agreement is the thing that lets you put it on the open market as a quasi owner because you have the contract, right?
You do. You have a position of ownership on that. For the assignability, you can have a marketing clause in there, and I'm very upfront with our homeowners, right? I think that's a really big thing when you're dealing with creative as well. I
Yeah,
think creative should be very
I
complimentary,
agree.
it should not be confusing. I'm a dum dum that got into it, and if I can figure this stuff out and have the right team behind me, I really think anybody can, because it's not. It's very approachable to be able to allow this. Like you said, you're kind of the superhero in this, where you're dealing with the same 4Ds. This is what I say, right? It's death, distress, divorce, and debt. So their
Yeah.
situation doesn't change. And if they need cash now, then here's my cash now offer. Like, we can do this quick. But if you're willing to be able to, get more profit, and we're willing to work with my patients or your patients,
Yeah.
or we can end up positioning you, to a lot more of a higher spread, utilizing what our terms are. So it's just kind of walking the seller to something that best fits them, and having a couple options. They can kind of take a breath. They don't feel cornered, and that's cool. So people think I hate wholesale. I love wholesale. I do
Yeah.
wholesale, but it's not something where every deal doesn't fit into the cage of a quick cash offer.
Yeah, but that's perfect. I always call it tools in a toolbox. You're coming out there with wholesale, Novation, listed on the market, quick for cash. Because I think the problem with a lot of new investors is they take one course and they're just sending out quick for cash. And from those 4Ds that almost none of them actually need the cash. Like, it's
Yeah.
not the most important unless it's pre-foreclosure. Like, somebody doesn't know where they're going to go, or they need a clean out, or they need a renovation. So you come in there, and as an off-market specialist, this, but to help the audience and the listeners, the more things that you have, then you always have a pivot. If you go in and you're one note and you say cash, I mean, those people never have cash anyway, but
They don't.
you can't pivot. They say, well, I need a clean out. Sure, no problem. I got that. Oh, well, this would sell better if we can renovate the kitchen. Oh, we have a program for that. Like, there's
Yeah.
no way that they can get away from you, because you're coming from a point of service instead of just one note. I want to get your house from you.
You hit the nail on the head. I always say that we're service oriented, not selling oriented, right? And it's really good to disqualify your own offer. It's like, I guess we could do that. I go, what's the hesitation? I just, it's low. I don't need it right now. And I go, then don't take it right now, right? This is what we can do then, right? And so I had one seller call me Tylenol Trever one time, because I was the Tylenol for their headache, and I was like, wow. Yes,
I
love
like that. You need a website on that. That would be good too.
Tylenol
I like
Trever.
it.
I thought that was super awesome. That was a property I novated in Chino, put 160 in to make 160, and she made a lot more money. She still sends me Christmas cards to this day. And it's so cool to see the retention of business. Get residual business from it, and a lot of the times the Novations, right? Because you're able to work them, like you said, into more profit, and as long as you have good, clear, and concise communication over the process, they give you more business. They go, wow, I have an uncle in New Mexico. He's trying to move to, Arizona, but he needs a new roof. Can you help with that? And it's like, absolutely, because it's very collaborative. And that's been really cool to do.
Yeah, and I think the more personalized you get, the better. You're obviously very personable, and I think that probably comes across. I've found across the board, the best home buyers are not like sleazy. They're just, like you said, upfront, transparent. Here are the different options. And when you understand all the creative financing, your on-market options, you give them basically a buffet. It's like going to Vegas. You're like, when I make offers as a buyer, a lot of times I'll make 2 seller finance offer, one with more money down, one with less money down, both good terms for me. That's the whole point, but higher price to them. Like you said, I mean, that's creative finance in a nutshell. Oh, you want your price? Well, I would like the terms. Then I give you a mortgage offer. There's going to be a pain, for both of us. Then I have an all cash offer if this suits your needs. And then you can go back with these renovation offers. There's just so many options for them to choose from. I think the Tylenol Trever thing is real.
Did I appreciate it? Maybe I should make a domain or something.
I like it. Yeah, look it up before this comes out, or somebody's going to take it and then extort you. Yeah.
I mean, Instagram DM, like, selling it to me for like 10 grand, Like, dang it.
Well, so after you got that the first where you kind of, I will call it housing, it sounds like, with bunk beds. Yeah. But do you think that played any role? You're used to living in barracks, maybe, if you've been out there, and then it's like, well, this just makes sense. You can put a lot of people in here. They're used to living like that if they're all your boys from service.
Absolutely. My time in Quantico, I mean, we were doing four to the room already. We had electrical tape of what our spaces were. So I was like, wait, now we just get doors and I can have my own room? Like, yes. So it definitely did play a part. And that's, we were young enough to be able to go through that kind of sacrifice. And that's the other thing, right? People always say, my wife would never allow it. And it's like, well, what are your, what are your long-term goals? What are you willing
Well, are
to
you on the same page with your long-term goals? Yeah.
Absolutely. And how can you get there with temporary, heart, like headache maybe or something. But I think allowing that was a good shift. And then from there, I didn't do house hacking for a crazy long time, about 8 months until we ended up transitioning. But then I was able to save up money to go into what I thought, I was going to do forever, which was wholesale. Very hamster wheel mentality. It's tough to be able to sustain that. And I think, it's just so oversaturated, but I think in a good play, if you know what you're doing, you can make a lot of good money. But I started with wholesale. And then when it came down to me losing deals, because I love flirting with the old ladies and talking war stories with the men, it's like my favorite thing to do. And they just kept asking me. They just said, well, why don't you list it? I don't like your low ball, but I mean, I like you. And I go, I don't have my license. And so I got my license and I thought everything was going to shift, man, until I realized I'm just listing distressed homes, which nobody still wants to buy.
Right. You're just going to end up buying it anyway. Yeah,
exactly. So that's, I'm just telling you the origin of kind of how I found Novations, because I was listing these homes, had a lot of listings, and I listened to a podcast. Education is key for everything. And they talked about doing a novation where you can end up coming in there and putting some money into it. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that can save a lot. I never did the pitch before. I went to my first property in Rosamond, California, and I walked it. My cash offer was about $280. His note, though, was about like $298 or something. Mm-hmm. So he's a VA guy, and he was like, that doesn't make any sense. And so I was just going to list it for like $340 or something. But as I walk in, he got random orders as an Air Force guy to Colorado. And so he started to do the work, but he didn't really know what he was doing. So it was like body work and
YouTube you.
Yeah, basically YouTube University. And so I walked in, half the flooring was in there, not the best flooring. The kitchen was kind of updated, but still in the midst of painting. Landscape wasn't done. And I said, this could be perfect. And I told him, I said, look, I could list this thing, right? But it's going to take months. And I know you want to be able to get your eligibility out because you want to buy where you're going. So I said, look, I got something that we can do. It's more of a novation strategy. What we'll end up doing is, I know that you want to get at least about 305. I'll lock you into $315,000 guaranteed. I'll come in there. I'll fully renovate the home for you. I got a crew ready to go. I've never done this. I've got a crew ready to go. Yeah. I'm ready to be able to move forward, do it all the time, and make them feel comfortable. And then I FaceTime my buddy Mark, who is a contractor in Arizona that I served with. And I just started walking around and I go, what the hell did I get myself into?
What do I do?
What do I do? And he was like, that's about $15K and a pack of Bud Light for me, man. Fly me out. And I did.
Oh, that's awesome.
We sold it for $400, sold for $405,000, and I made, after realtor fees and closing costs, I made my entire year's salary as a staff sergeant in one deal. Seller was stoked.
Seller crushed it. Because Seller was at 340 max.
Yeah, they were pumped. I mean, they were seriously pumped. And so I just took that model and I revisited all of my dead leads and the deals that I had. And that's where I found real wealth through that and, real income. And I just never let that go. And I kind of wanted to niche down instead of going, casting a wide net, I casted a deep one. And I became known for doing those.
So many smart things in there. One, you went back to your list, which I think is the most important things. A lot of people just burn through a list and they're like, oh, they all told me to screw off, so I guess that list is dead. But you was like, wait, I have a new tool. Let me call them back because I can just tell you're good with people. So they probably liked you and they're just, the numbers don't work, or you didn't know really what you were doing to get the close. And then you go back with a new deal and they're like, oh yeah, I like this guy. And you're like still trying to help. Hey, look, I have a new strategy that can help you. And I think that puts you in a different position. And then also Novation is you're really working together, which promotes that, hey, partnership, cooperative, instead of like, give me your house. You're about to get foreclosed on, oh, thanks for, calling me an asshole. It's just like, that's great.
You don't come at it from an authoritative position anymore, right? It's very much a collaboration.
Yeah,
and I love it. I tell my team that all the time. The funding is in the follow-up. I mean, it truly, truly is. And so identifying that, you're totally right? Anybody who's listening to this and they got dead wholesale deals and you built rapport with the homeowner, they like you, but your offer just sucks.
Yeah.
You need to go back and say, honey, hey, Brenda, every time I call sellers, Brenda, hey, Brenda, I just did an opportunity.
I use Bob and Sally. I don't know why.
Bob and Sally,
Yeah.
I just got an opportunity. You were the first person I thought of when I came down to this. It's a new model that I think you and I would be able to really partner up on. And like you said, you work them into the optimism. You see exactly what the benefits are. And as long as you can digest it to them, you can explain it to them, because that's also crucial. Yeah. Anybody who listens to Novations, the number one thing is when people, come in my community and they're like, what am I doing wrong? And they just word vomit. Well, I don't buy your house, but I'll flip it, and they're like, what are you talking about?
If they don't know, I think a lot of times they're like, oh, cool program. And they're just either, I relate it to scripting. A lot of people just read the script and they don't understand the script. So then when they get one question off the script, they're like, I thought it was yes. Where's the workflow for this? There's no workflow. You have to be not a robot. Let's talk about, that's why, you're approaching, hey, how can I help you? As opposed to, how can I buy your house? Those are two very different questions that people think are the same.
Yeah. Well, people always forget, right? People do business with people, right? I mean, I know that you agree. I think it's a great thing that gets positioned, but people forget about that when they see dollars behind the door. You know what I mean? When they forget about that mindless connection. I'll tell you right now, sometimes the Novation piece might not have made full sense, but because of how we were able to operate with that homeowner and we were able to kind of hold their hand to something that made more sense to them, they're willing to take more of a cut because of the credibility that you can build. And people forget that, people totally forget that.
Yeah, Novation to me, just in quick thought for the listeners, sounds just like a more viable wholesale possibility, and definitely more of a cooperative partnership, like we said, because when you're doing wholesale, a lot of times if I'm going to buy and it's a wholesale deal, the wholesaler sometimes has a terrible relationship with the seller, and you're in there with 5 other people. It's so awkward. They're like, "Can you do the insurance salesman bit again?" I'm like, "Oh Jesus, again." We can't have 5 all insurance people with our clipboards. Why would that even be a thing? And I think your point in the beginning, which we talked about one more time, is so important. I think that the people make the mistake that they're running the scripts instead of just being honest and transparent. And like you're saying, can you explain the process and how it's a win-win? If you can do that, and I bet this, there's always a time when you're off market where you can see it make sense in the seller, and the light bulb goes off, and you're like, oh shit, they just got it.
Yeah.
Because it really does make sense. It's a win-win. But you can see them go, oh, yeah, you're going to pay for the renovation. We're going to make more. I'm going to make a little bit more. You're going to make some. And it's going to end up being a better buy for the buyer, Yeah.
Yeah, it really is the coolest thing when you hear the, huh. It's like, there it is. There it is, and it's a win-win-win on that case. And being able to describe that is extremely important. And I do love that. And, something that, bleeds into the Novation piece as well is you do need to still, right? People listen to this, they go, I'm only going to offer Novations.
Yeah.
By the way, in 2024, moving on, I think it's a phenomenal way to be able to, definitely increase your pipeline, but you still need to anchor your sellers into reality. You still need to offer, and incentivize what their property is currently worth. If you completely butcher that and you just go into how you can help, it's going to continue to keep the seller in the driver's seat. They're not going to see exactly what the benefit you can bring. I mean, you're going to be in bed with this homeowner for 3 to sometimes 5 months, right? Yeah. And so if that is the case, they need to go, wow, I can only do this because of your service. This is great. Instead of trying to, mask something. If a seller, I'll tell you right now, I say no more than yes a lot of the time because of the homeowner, right? It's somebody I don't want to work with when it comes down to that. And I really wish that wasn't the case for them, but they might not be in the right mindset for this kind of strategy. So you do, like you say, we do offer, more services to make we can best fit not only their situation, but their personality as well.
I've always found that the more that you say no, the more people respect you. And you'll get those calls back later from the people say, I really appreciate that you didn't try to jam the cash down my throat. I really didn't get it at the time, did a little research. I looked you up, saw your, videos. I'd like you to come back out. That happens all the time. People just might not be ready. But if they've responded to a call or a postcard, yeah, they're thinking about it. It's not just for fun, even when they call to yell at you, which I think is, closer to a transaction than most people think.
I completely agree. And that's my first question. When we come down to it, ask if they have the means to be able to renovate their home themselves, right?
Yeah.
Hey, they might not even thought about it, right? They might have all this equity, but they can't qualify for a HELOC, right? They're in a situation, but hey, do you have means to be able to come in and help? Because I can consult on that as well, right? I can just help you through the process, whatever is going to be best beneficial for you, on that side. And a lot of times it's a no. No, I don't have $50,000, right? Well, hey, look, instead of going to a bank, paying that 10% down on those interest payments, I got that $50,000, right? I can just come in there. Why don't we just work together? I don't need to wait 30 days. If you and I come to terms, I can swing a hammer this Saturday.
Yeah.
And it really is such an informal pitch that I think makes them a lot more comfortable with it.
Yeah. So if they have it on the market with an agent, you pull it down, pull it off the market, do the reno, and then pop it back on when it's complete, right?
Yeah. So we don't pull it directly off though, because they're going to get bombarded with other agents. So we just put it on hold. And then, yes, we will come in there. Now, the thing is, working with agents, it's one of my favorite things when you're working with a great creative agent. I really do treat my agent kind of as a PM as well. I go, hey, you're going to make more money, which is going to be great, but this is a give and take. You're going to be at the property. I need you to be proactive on the marketing. Call other listing agents local. We're going to make the property look very comparable to these comps, right?
Right.
Call them, see how many offers they had. If you can bring a buyer. I mean, we have a whole agent roles and responsibilities. And, I will say it's happened a couple times where agents feel like I'm just, I can solve everything. But if you can't bring that back or reciprocate it, then I'll fire you. I'll get an agent that will.
Oh, they need the help. I think that things like this provide a really great opportunity for agents to be in a little bit of a different niche than everybody else. Everybody else just doing, okay, your standard, just pick up a listing, let it sit there if it's not that great, and let it sit there, and then reduce the price, and then reduce the price again, and then withdraw it because your seller hates you. Maybe if you start to learn about this stuff, you can bring a little bit more of that creative, and then you have three people, working together. You have you as the Novation expert, the real estate agent, and the seller. Everybody's trying to make the most money, and put out a product that will make the best profit. So there's really no one against anyone because no one's earning more. You each are in the same scale on whatever the percentages are.
Yep. It's the win-win-win piece, right? I think another cool thing that I had this agent tell me, we've done multiple deals in Arizona, Phoenix, Scottsdale area. And now she says, I love being so confident to go in because I don't have to negotiate my commission at all. Because I tell the homeowner right away, I can get this done, for a good 6%, and the best news, and they always say the best part is, Mr. Seller, you don't pay for any of it, right? I have a creative department that can come in. They're going to cover that plus your closing costs. And that when you can increase, they're like, well, how? And you go, let's get you on the phone with them because I think in the condition it's in, it could be good, but we can make this thing great. And then they just position it over to us. The agent, built that credibility with them. They get their full commission that they rightfully deserve. I am not a flat fee listing kind of guy. I completely, I shun that. And so allowing that kind of personal approach, it's so cool for them to have that confidence and, make the justified money that they're going to make during the deal.
Yeah, no, I think it's smart. I was down a rabbit hole for a while on this franchise called Renovation Sells, which basically does the same thing. But I didn't really put the Novation hat on it. I was thinking like, oh, this is going to help me as an agent. But it was just like I had a team of 50 at the time. So I was like, I can't handle both of these things together. But yeah, I really like the idea because I think there's so many houses that you walk into as an agent or as a buyer where you're like, damn, it's everything but the kitchen. Like they did everything and then they left the bathrooms. Like it just looks dumb when you have a brand new kitchen and then two, mauve pink bathrooms. It just, because you're giving someone a project, but you also like, hey, my kitchen's sweet. I want to get top dollar. Well, you're not finished.
You're not. Yeah, you're absolutely not. And you hit the nail on the head with that. I see it all the time. They walk in, they go, damn, if this thing just had like 8,000 more bucks. I mean, it could be
right. That's the ideal one, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. That's the ideal one. People forget how much, more optimism. Residential real estate's so emotional. You get that $10,000 in there, your property can absolutely sell above appraised value, right? It's all about the marketability of a home. But that is the ideal one. Our Temecula ones, things like that. Great market, great area. Equity protection. So $5,000 and less, I'll go nationwide, right?
Because the scale's there. Yeah.
Totally is. equity splits, we've really honed down. I flew too close to the sun sometimes where I go, the numbers make sense, but I forget, like, I know nobody in, Arkansas. You know what I mean?
I got to build a team. Yeah.
I got to build it. And so I'm focusing on basically 5-6 major markets in certain states. So that's where I'll go upwards of, I've done, $300,000 in renovations before, and so identifying what my cash on cash return is going to be is crucial. The 10 to 12s, those are super easy. Anything that's going to be in the 40, 50, it's got to be in a market that I have a great pulse in,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that's just the difference between scale and the home runs. You want to mix them both together. You can do volume at this like 5 to 15 grand, really like 5 to probably 12, 5. 15 is kind of a lot, because then 15 ends up taking, a month when you're trying to get in there. Your ideal, like we used to always say, lipstick flip is a week. Like if you can get in and out in a week, that's great. But if you're doing 5 grand, maybe you got 2 weeks tops, and that's a great turnaround time.
It totally is. I mean, it totally is. And we, a lot of our stuff again, right? I've done 2 live-in flips, dude. never again. Was moving around in the room. Yeah, exactly. Right.
You put the kitchen in the bedroom with your little thing and your hot pot, and you're like, this sucks. I hate everything. Yeah.
It's the worst. And now we have our buy box of what does make sense. And it has been really cool to see that, as I started to say no, like you said, it does give me more power, because they go, well, I want to work with you. Well, then give us something here, which just means that, our submissions do decrease, but our quality increases, right? So that's been really cool to be able to see over the last year.
Yeah. One more point I wanted to make. A lot of times when somebody takes down a listing as an agent and then they just put it back up, like they just take it off to just reset the days on market, it looks the same. You just look like a dummy. But when you take it down on a Novation and then you put it back on and then there's a new kitchen, it's like, wait, they actually did something. Now you get rewarded for actually being the one who's doing something, instead of kind of trying to trick the public. Hey, look at my new listing. No, you had it on for 90 days and it looks exactly the same. And it's the same price.
Brother, exactly, right? Just got to reset the days. We're just going to reset the days. No,
that'll work. Nobody knows, because it doesn't reset on Zillow. I don't know why everyone doesn't understand that.
And the agent verbiage is always my favorite, right? They're like, how do I find these? I go, just go look and say, with a little TLC, your beautiful oasis of a fixer could turn into, and I go, that's a Novation.
yeah, exactly. They're actually talking to you instead of talking to the outbuyer, because their price is at a point where it's like way above wholesale price. So it's too expensive. All the investors know better, because they're trying, the person wants to sell too high, or they would have taken a cash offer or something. There's so many steps in there that make sense. And like you, with all the experience, we understand like how many times it's been through. So that when they put it up on the market, you already know where that's going. That's like as ripe as it can be. You probably have a keyword search set up for like fixer upper, just like boom. Yeah.
I have the simplest. It's so funny you said that. It is even simpler than this, man. Like, it is not hard, right? Analysis paralysis. Real estate is not rocket science. It is just systems, Yeah. We go on Redfin, and this is for anybody listening right now, how to find these deals. I don't use, any subscription that you got to pay for it. Go to Redfin, right? Look up properties in your area that you're confident about. Go to 60 or 90 days more on market, click single family, and then click that little fixer upper button.
Yeah.
And then call all of those agents and then offer this. And I do that. We do that every day. And that's exactly how I get in front of 8 to 10 offers a week. And we just see which ones make sense. It's really that simple.
Just as I always say, like for an agent, you could have one investor client and be crushing it more than 99% of the agents. Just as you, as someone who's a specialist in novations, if you get that one agent who's always getting those kind of like mid-range, trashy, but not too trashy listings, like they're going to keep explaining the process for you. And they just call you and like, hey, I got another one. You could have that one agent could bring you 10 deals a year.
It is so true. And the cool thing is you could take your agent hat off and put your investor hat on, because as you go through, and I work and, I teach with a lot of brokers now, because we're in that seasonality period of, it was very old dog, new tricks a couple of years ago with me breaking into the scene. And they go, no. And now they're like, oh, maybe this is actually, this could work, right?
It's not, because I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the same thing when someone explains to you wholesaling first time. You're like, this sounds like bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, actually in wholesaling, a lot of it is bullshit, but like, it's hard for people to, it's like when you go to try to explain seller finance for the first time, I'm like, I don't want to be the bank. It's like, but you're going to make more money and you don't have to pay taxes. wait, now you're starting to speak my language. But it goes right back to your point that the better that you can explain it, the more reps you get in doing the explanation, the quicker somebody is to actually understand it. And it may not be right when you're in front of them. You may need to leave and say, yeah, it was great meeting you. When when you think about it, they're going to go back, talk to some friends, and someone will say like, actually, no, that's real. It's not fake. It does. I can see why people think it's fake, though. Can't you? Yeah.
100. Oh, absolutely. Because they always go, well, this sounds. You do get the
too
whole
good to be true.
It's too good to be true. Yeah. Like, okay, what if it doesn't sell? And then you have to have the rebuttals of any kind of conversations for that, which I love to have with the homeowner. One of my favorite questions. But to go back to the agent piece, it is such a game of telephone. It's so word of mouth related because they go, dude, they help me with this. I know you got this listing. I got this company that can help you. And the cool thing is when you refer out, because you're not attached to that with your license, I can attach any agent that refers me business to somebody else to the equity of what we're going to make. And now you become an investor. Now you're getting referral outs and all these things. And it just kind of catches like wildfire. Then you have a broker who teaches it. We become programs on certain traditional listings. And it can really take legs of its own. I mean, I'm not special. You can replicate this anywhere because these deals will never go away. These deals will never go away.
Well, I liked something that you said back in the beginning, and it reminded me when you just said, I'm not special. It's just, you were saying like you went to your first meetup or something and you saw like, these people are investors. That's what I always say. You were saying that it was, you thought like, people are going to be dressed up in suits and wearing penny loafers and stuff. And then you walk into a real room at a real investor meetup and you're like, hey, can I get a Coke? And the guy's like, I'm not a busboy. What are you talking about? Like, oh, what are you doing here? He's like, I have 42 units. Yeah. You're like, what the hell? Are you serious?
Speaker. Like, oh.
Yeah. He's like, but you don't even have shoes on. I know. I just came from the beach. Like people don't get it. It's such like an outward view that, like everybody's a slumlord. You can't help people and also be an investor, which is our point of this win-win-win, system of Novations. It's just a bad look. It's why people say, call people, everyone used car salesman as a salesman. Used car salesman can be great. Are there disreputable ones? Sure. But there's a lot in real estate as well. You just have to kind of figure out who can stand their ground, have the conversation, and then show up the next time and still be available.
It's the damn best way you could have ever put it. And it really is unfortunate because of the oversaturation. You just get one or two bad eggs. The bad news travels a lot further, than the good news, right? That's all you're able to hear about. That's all that's going to be in the real estate news around your neighborhood and things like that. So, just always acting above approach on that side and being able to get in front of the questions. And I'm a big fan of always going for the no. Like why?
I love it now.
Yeah, you do. I want people to get on the phone. You need to fail. Only way to get better doing pull-ups, do pull-ups. Freaking make the dials, fail forward and suck more, and then get a little bit better, right? Because that's confidence that you're going to regain for you. And you see it all the time, right? It's if it doesn't fit, all right, fine, Brett. Yeah, best of luck. I'm just going to call you back. And the thing about wholesale is, you're just hoping that their situation in 60 days doesn't get better. So they'll come to your offer, you know what I mean? And so, like I said, I don't hate it, but you need to have something that can, come in there and you just say, hey, this is a little bit outside of my buy box. I can't make sense there, but I can make sense here. If I can agree to your price, will you agree to my terms? Well, what does that mean? That's a great question, right? Yeah. And then you just open that conversation. You should be able to do that. And if you can't, you're not a real estate investor. You're a script worker.
Yeah, exactly. You have to understand, like we said, what's in there. Hey, it's Jonathan. I hope you're enjoying this episode with Trever Ahing as we go all into Novation. Now, I just want to give you a little middle point update. Now, if you go to Investopedia, like I do sometimes, to just check things out, this is what the definition of novation is from there. Novation is the replacement of one of the parties in an agreement between two parties with the consent of all three parties involved. To novate is to replace an old obligation with a new one. So as you found out, and as you will as we get to the rest of the show, it's kind of an assignment, but it's like an advanced assignment because more goes with it. Let's get back to the show with Trever. Before we get to Buyer Beater University, what's your ideal marketing? Like, what are you doing on marketing? Are you doing all calls? Are you doing texting? Or are you doing mailing? Or are you doing all of them?
Yeah, so I was doing all of them. My direct-to-seller acquisition channel was a lot of texting. Now the A2P compliance, that's a whole different...
Yeah, it's dicey. It's dicey. Yeah.
We did some direct mail stuff. I'm a fan, as you can probably tell, of call-in, right? The cold call piece. But I will say we've been blessed the last couple of years with the community. Is my whole thing is driven towards education. And a lot of my community members, they're newer investors, they're more blue collar, they're teachers where they just want to get a couple deals done a year and pay for a vacation, And so I tell them where, to operate in, what to say, and we just call it the warm handoff. And we get, between 80 and 100 submissions a month of them dialing in areas that we want. And then my team just is able to take that warm handoff and close them. So I don't do any direct to seller anymore. It's all from the community.
I mean, that's a smaller model of what Pace does, because I know Pace was one person who you learned from and said, like, wow, this doesn't have to be all buttoned up, because 100%. Now he has whole sub too. You're right. Like, those people, they just want to knock out a few, and then they're just going to send the big ones to him. He's going to close them. They're going to get some money out of it. And it's another win-win. I mean, people forget that really in real estate, most deals can be win-win at all contexts. You just have to be the right person to pay attention and ask them how you can help. It's really not that hard, like we've been saying.
Not. No, it's not. And the marketing channel with that, I mean, what I see people doing in the community, we have some like whale wholesalers and big agents, but you don't need to do that. You're just going to I'm just going to be a tool to your tool belt, right? You just treat me. And I always tell people in the community, we work for you. Like I don't eat, unless we can get in front of more opportunity through you. Yeah. So they do that. And a lot of things that have been working is, a lot of PPC stuff, PPL stuff, but that's going to require, quite a bit of overhead. The MLS has been a great way to target stagnant listings.
Exactly.
That's the secret sauce for us right now with this model, right? That really is.
Yeah, well, specifically, since we've been talking so much agent, the reason why the MLS is so good, and you were doing it on Redfin too, once you see a property at, 60, 90, 120 days, it's not just the seller who's, crapping their pants like, hey, this isn't going to sell. That agent's like, hey, I put a bunch of marketing and they need a solution, and they probably haven't gotten a call to even show it in like a month. They're ripe for the call. You just have to know how to approach it, because their first thought is going to be like, hey, this sounds tricky.
It totally is, yeah. And that's been a great way to open it. It's so funny. It's like, then you get the agents where, like we say, the old dog new tricks, right? Now highest and best, click. And I go, I wonder why you're not selling that out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
or you see it in the agent notes, highest and best August 1st, and it's October. You're like, I guess you might want to remove that, but that, again, that's right. They're paying so little attention to it that they haven't even removed the agent notes that they, messed up the highest and best.
And that's when you operate on volume, and that's just when you don't have the seller's best interest, and that really is unfortunate. We don't go to direct to seller as much, because of more of the on-market stuff. We call it our 50, actually, dud listings, and so that's been a big marketing channel for us. But when you find the good agents, right, our conversions on that is basically 1 out of every 8. Can really turn into a deal, and so just double that up, make $20 a day, and just stumble your way towards the pitch and get them in front of me and be a part of it. I think it's a very easy call to action to get in front of how to do these.
Yeah. Can you run back that now with the 5 Ds? So the last one was duds. Those are listings that are sitting. I know divorce was one, death, right?
Yeah, death, distress, divorce, and debt, and then dud listings. I say it so much. I'm like, I should get these tattooed on my chest because we say it so much. But any deal that you can categorize is going to fit in one of those 5, right? It's totally going to fit in one of those 5. So identify what their situation is and then work towards that kind of solution, because there's a way to cater to that solution with the Novation pitch as well.
Yeah. Awesome. So tell us about Buyer Beater University. Well, yeah, first, what does the name signify to you? Because I know that's part of the program.
It totally is. The name, when it came into it, it's such I guess it could be a polar name. Pace loves it. So, I mean, as long as Daddy Pace likes it, we're good. But it really is because, we can provide creative solutions for sellers in any situation. It's just a way to beat out every other buyer because we can offer it all, especially on that side. And so we'll hold their hand towards something that works for them. So we beat out other buyers. That's the name. The university piece wasn't until years later. I'll be honest. I mean, I was doing this with my partner, who was a commercial agent. He loved what I was doing. He bought in, and we've been doing it ourselves for a while and doing a couple a quarter. And then, we had some other buddies. So you just kind of start hearing that, that word traffic. And they said, never be afraid to put money in your friends' pockets. And they said, can I pay you to consult me on a couple? I'm a fix and flipper, and I can use the same $100,000 to do 3 now, And I said, yeah. And I started, utilizing, what we did for that and went over the transactions. And long story short, it snowballed to more and more people wanting to get in front of this. I think Novation just kind of caught people caught wind in their sails with it. It started becoming more commercial. And then I just said, let's open the floodgates to do this educational piece. And so a lot of wholesalers or newer agents, experienced agents, people who have never done a deal, I just want you to know real estate is attainable. It's approachable. Jump on in, listen to me run my muck, every day with me in the community. And we go over every status, our deals. We do buyer beater breakdowns. And it's just a way for you to gain confidence to make these approaches and these warm handoffs. And I always say, if you find it, we fund it. I don't need any money from you on that side. I'll fund everything and attach you to the equity. It's just I need you a part of the army to see what we can get and where we can get it,
Are the tracks different for wholesaler, flipper, and agent? Or are they just doing the same thing or learning the same things and then figuring out how to work together, hopefully?
Yeah, it really, I wouldn't say it's a uniformed, track for everybody, but the way that they campaign is going to be different. I am very much so a different department for each one, Fix and flippers, they truly do love it because the 100K is really just cash to close. And then you can wrap in your rehab budget, but your interest payments, everything. And you could just be collaborative and work with the couple. So a lot of the fix and flippers, they don't really need my money. They just really want us to come in as transactional support. And that's totally fine. Wholesalers need my money, right? To be able to come in and renovate. I actually buy as well. I hold quite a bit of midterms and I've done some luxury stuff in Arizona. So I give you kind of what we are, and then you can go there and try to find an opportunity that would best fit that, and so that's kind of how we kind of cater towards one another.
Yeah, it's interesting, though. Your involvement starting with wholesale and then getting into Novation, it actually allowed you to make these other investments. Like you said, you're doing midterm, you have other properties, because now you're really good at acquisition. So now it's trying to figure out, well, what do I do with it? I can get some for my buddies. I can take some for me. So just for your own personal investments, like what's your ideal asset class now? Like, what do you want to do if you're holding a piece of real estate now?
Yeah, I'm doing only if I'm going to be holding and taking title to something, I'll take it via hard money. I can even novate into a DSCR actually and basically subdue, which is that's a whole different nerdy rabbit hole.
That's a complicated one, but not as complicated as people think.
No, yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And that's what happens when you build great rapport with your homeowner. Hey, this is how I can end up doing this. And they let you take the helm, but do a lot of midterms, right? Over in Texas, single family residences, we'll end up positioning. I work with a company called Pad Split, and go in there. We rent out by the room. We're at 19 doors right now and 5 homes. And so doing that, I will say I'd like to acquire a lot more. That is my asset class on that. We went very deep, through the EOS system, through Traction. I highly recommend everybody do that. I thought I wanted to go into more multifamily. I can novate other bigger things, but that's not what I'm passionate about. It's not what I want to do. And so I stick to single family residences. And then for Arizona, we do more of the luxury flip market just because the people who give us deals in Arizona, the way you can add square footage and just the opportunity in Arizona has been great for Novations. And we've just kind of transitioned to holding title because of the permitting and everything there.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think when you get into the markets like that, you do need to go into higher price points to make more money. In 2020, it was different. You could get in at a kind of all different price points. Same for me when I was flipping. But now you have to go up a level to make more. So the more cash or financing that you have available for it, the more you can service those. And those are the home runs as opposed to the singles, which, add up to a lot of runs in the end.
Absolutely. And that's a Novation piece. Those 5K deals, those are great base hits. Great base hit. Do them everywhere, but every once in a while you gotta get a little happy and do one or two and see what your risk, your risk tolerance is. But that's what we're focusing on. We buy in Texas. If we want to be the end investor, we'll DSCR and I'll basically just burr through the midterm strategy. Yeah. And then we'll flip luxury in Arizona and California, Arizona, Nevada, Texas, and Florida and Tennessee. I'll do Novations of 20 grand or more, basically.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, is the best place for people to find out about this at buyerbeateruniversity.com?
Absolutely. You can go there. I also answer all my DMs, jump on in on Instagram. Any questions that we have, I'd love to be able to, hop on the phone, get on a Zoom, at least do a trial, tell me what you think, and then go from there.
And your Instagram is Invest with Trev, right?
That's me. It should be Tylenol Trev.
Yeah, but, I know. You gotta snag that before this comes out. You have like 3 weeks, so don't let somebody sneak it up on you. But yeah, man, I really appreciate it. Great conversation. We've never really done a deep dive on Novation, so I think it's a great benefit to our audience. And I look forward to staying in touch with you, man.
Jonathan, you as well, brother. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, awesome. That was Trever Ahing of Buyer Beater University. I'm Jonathan Green. We'll see you next episode. Get ready for your preview of the next episode. If you're still listening, it must be the reason why you stick around, because you know you're going to get a quick preview of the next episode. And the next episode, my guest is Shane Lefebvre of Rowers Companies. Now, Rowers is a multifamily real estate firm powered by in-house development, construction, and property management. That is what we call vertical integration. So this is a syndication show coming up next and a multifamily show. But as always, we go down rabbit holes, different ones with each different guest. So I can't wait for you to hear the episode, and we'll see you then.